Hey y'all, happy April, happy National Poetry Month. Thank you for choosing the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast. This is the podcast where I'm hanging out, chit chat, talking, yapping, yammering about a smorgasbord of topics with a myriad of theories and perspectives, in addition to my interpretations and opinions. Too much of nothing and a little bit of everything, justifying randomness. This is what the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast is about. I'm Fee. Welcome. Song of the day is Spring by Tracy Chapman. Very nice song. All right. So, first of all, how are you all doing? It is spring. It is April. It is National Poetry Month. It is Autism Awareness Month. It's a lot going on. Apparently, all of the planets, I believe, are in Aries, either right now or will be soon. And that's wild to me. I don't know how you are, people who listen to this podcast, about the Aries energy. I don't know if you're Aries, but, when I think of Aries, I think of a person who gets things done. They're active and they're always on, I believe, like constantly going and wanting to be in control of the moment. And you know what? Hell yeah. If that's the energy we're going with, wonderful. But like I said, it is a lot going on in the world, on the internet, in society. I mean, my God, and it's like, what do we even do to, calm down or just relax? And, I say, I got the list that we talked about before, but I just say, stop, drop, and roll. Just simply sit out, go to your room, your living room, and lay down. Watch a good little movie, television show, read a book. Reading is fundamental. Something. All right. So, word of the day, and we got the pronuncier is
Colloquy.
Colloquy. Word of the day is colloquy. It is a noun, and it is a conversational exchange, dialogue, a conference. It is a formal conversation or conference, a literary work in dialogue form, an informal conference on religious and theological matters. I feel like we do colloquy all the time over here. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. We do of sorts. We do a conversational exchange. There's dialogue of sorts. I'm sure you're saying things on the other side of you listening to the podcast. Speaking of podcasts, I want to ask y'all a question. How do y'all feel about AI doing, and I don't know if it's doing it or what, but it's AI is supposed to be helping 911 dispatchers get help there faster. There's a good article, and I hope it's not behind a paywall, on USA Today about it. Basically, Denver, Colorado of the United States is implementing or slowly trying to implement AI in helping them basically sort the calls to the correct emergency people. Shooting a blank on the words. But, getting people to, do they need the police? Do they need the firefighters, paramedics, etc.? Non-emergencies. In the article, I learned a lot. And, I did not know. It was saying how, and I'm not going to find it, but I hope y'all will, all the articles will be posted on the social media. That is the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast. But in the article, it talks about how so many calls are non-emergencies. And it was saying how in March alone, there were like 1 million. This is just in New York City, I believe, was just like 1 million something like non-emergency calls. And I was like, what? And so I'm just, anyway, the article is saying that even though they're utilizing this and they're taking it step by step in small doses using AI, the two main issues are the cost efficiency and the efficiency as a whole as it relates to the public. So, is it even worth it? Is AI actually helping? And if it is, can we get the public to believe that? And if it isn't, how do we get the public to, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the issues. First of all, I'm anti AI. Okay, for a lot of different reasons. Because it's a technology that has its own intelligence. I mean, that's what it literally is, artificial intelligence. And so it grows on its own and it can't be tamed. And so I don't know why you would want to implement something like that into 911 dispatch when that is something that needs to be tamed. But, that part aside, because I'm jumping all over the place as I do, I just don't like it in general. Like I said, it's unattainable. It's not even as intelligent as it thinks it is, and people think it is, because it only is as intelligent as its creator. And men are not anyway. So, you got that going on. But then for me, and again, just let's not implement it anywhere. But for me, I was shook to my core because of the learning about, they brought up in this article in particular, even though this is mainly focusing on them implementing it in Denver, they brought up a few cities, a few states, and we're just talking about the calls in general. And so I was very fascinated about that aspect. I am an avid criminal, and I don't like to say true crime. I don't like that phrase. That's a whole nother subject in itself, but maybe we could get into it. But I'm someone who does watch like a lot of criminal shows about the different things, happening in society, the tragedies. I don't like the salaciousness of it all, but I do enjoy the facts and the things presented, right? And at the height, I'm leading somewhere, I promise. At the height or at the beginning of most stories of emergencies, of course, is a 911 call, right? And I'm just like, I don't see how AI could help. Or maybe it could, I don't know. But I just feel like they haven't mastered in the human form the 911 dispatcher situation. Now, excuse me, if there's a listener out there who's a 911 dispatcher, thank you for your services, but some of your coworkers are off. If you know anything about what I have known or what I see on these different shows and things, is sometimes there are some discrepancies and some things that happen between the 911 dispatcher and the situation at hand. Sometimes people are on their job. They damn near solving the case already. You know what I'm saying? They're asking the correct questions and putting it to play. But there are some situations where, and this is just me looking in on the situation. I don't know everything. They wouldn't hire me, but it just seems like there's some discrepancies in the beginning in the interaction with the 911 dispatch. Maybe they know that. Maybe Denver understands, and they're like, you know what? We can get a tech to intercede this. Maybe it is for the best, but I'm just like, I always feel like in life in general, in any situation, if you haven't mastered the shit, just with the regular peoples and the regular implementations and et cetera, why are we getting a tech to help us? Because it ain't gonna be able to help us. It's gonna be lost, because it can only, again, the intellect, the artificial intellect goes only so far as the people who are implementing it into whatever thing they're implementing in it too. My God, the words today. And so I'm just like, I don't know if we have, y'all ain't mastered regular. I mean, I don't know the years, the centuries, etc. I don't know how long 911, the concept, the execution has been in service, but I just know that it still hadn't been mastered by humans. So I'm trying to figure out how AI is going to help. But anyway, how do y'all feel about that? This is, this is something that is apparently, a thing that's going to be happening. So buckle up, buttercup. But I did think, to get back to the main thing that fascinated me, I did think it was wild that they were saying several times in the article how so many people call for non-emergencies. They call, and and this is something, I'm skipping all over the place, but this is something that's very important because, like, I think in Georgia, it's 311, but there is a number that you can implement instead of 911 if it's a non-emergency. Like, you can already sift yourself out of the emergency pile by you dialing, this number. And that helps greatly because a lot of times things are non-emergencies. But I just didn't know people were trying to chit-chat with the 911 dispatchers, to be honest, because that's what it seems like. The article was saying it was like, we've got to get these people out the way because they are, interfering with us getting to the real emergencies. And, I guess that's something. I just know that, like, it's tough because it's like when an emergency happens, I wonder why people always, or why, and again, this has something to do with me just not knowing the mechanics of the situation, because a lot of times someone will die 911, it is an emergency, and instead of like a paramedic or a firefighter coming to at least do CPR or something, that doesn't happen. And it's just, it's like, it's convoluted. And it's like, let's say that people do become better with non-emergency, because that's what I'm hearing from the article. They're saying, oh, it's an increase. But what I'm hearing is people now know when to say it's a non-emergency and what number to dial, right? And that's what the increase is. It's just people being more knowledgeable, of what an emergency is versus a non-emergency. But my thing is, okay, so the people are getting better at it, but is the dispatching getting better? And how would AI help that? Okay, I'm moving on. So what was real crazy, this is wacky Wednesday news up in here, is that there is a chocolate product that had to be taken off the market because it was containing potentially life-threatening amounts of Viagra in it, male enhancing drugs. Now, this is what gets to me. I've read a few articles, right? So nobody has died from the situation at hand. No one's parts on their body have been affected by it so far. And I almost thought to myself, I was like, was this a promotion? Were they trying to let us know that because first of all, most people thought when the article first dropped, the articles or the things talking about it first dropped, we thinking, oh my God, Reese's done got, how did Reese's, get Viagra in they damn chocolate? Turns out it is a chocolate that is already designed to enhance the special times between partners. Okay. So it is a chocolate specifically designed by these two brands. And they're supposed to be, now chocolate is quote unquote already allegedly a aphrodisiac, but they added a little something else to it, right? But they're saying we added too much of that, and that can interfere with people taking medications already, and that it could cause significant drops in blood pressure, etc., and be life-threatening. But I mean, my thing is, they're technically already made for that. So I was like, we didn't, and I don't think the general public knew, about no chocolates like this. And so I think they were just like, you know what, this is a great way to promote our business. Because I'm like, y'all ain't really have to tell us, not for real. But I mean, if y'all knew how many, because of the situation at hand with y'all's president, a lot of, we should be hearing about all the recalls, but we usually don't, right? So I just thought it was crazy that we hear about this recall, which is not, this is not a food that is needed. This is not a need food, right? This is just, this ain't even a basic food added with something. This is a dessert item that has added stuff. So I'm like, okay, shout out to that company. Don't know them, don't want to, but shout out to that company for doing this. That's a very, well planned marketing scheme. And I just thought it was great to share with you all. Again, all the articles for these things will be on the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. Okay. So now this one is spooky. I literally just got the damn, or was notified about it. So it's not even, now I don't know if it's because this just happened or it's because they don't like to put hate crimes, I'm spoiling it, they don't like to make hate crimes a mainstay in the headlines, basically. I've noticed. But two men, and I'm trying to figure out what state this is, but two people were arrested following a disturbance involving a firearm in Paris. And I don't know again. Uh-oh. Y'all hear the helicopter? I don't know what state this is, but okay, two people were arrested following a disturbance involving a firearm in Paris earlier this month, are now being charged with attempted first-degree murder and committing a hate crime. They list the names of the people and the charges. Okay. And okay, the charges stem from a shooting that happened in the evening hours of Friday, April 3rd. Previously reported that officers with the Paris Police Department responded to White Oaks Park after receiving several 911 calls. We just were talking about 911 about a disturbance involving a firearm. When they arrived on the scene, police found an injured male subject. New details shared in court on Tuesday revealed more information about what may have happened. Prosecutors said Jaleel Jones, a Danville alderman, and two other men, all black men, were fishing in Paris around 10:45 p.m. when a white pickup truck pulled up with the Colemans, both white men. Reynolds was with them as well. Evidence presented in the court indicates that the Colemans and the Reynolds had been drinking, and when they got out of the car, they surrounded the three victims and were acting aggressively. All three of the accused were allegedly using racial slurs. The victims said they would leave, but then Jordan pulled a 12-gauge shotgun from the truck, prosecutors said, and the gun had been purchased by Reynolds, but had been given to the Colemans in exchange for a PS5. Wow. Woo! Lord have mercy. The state said Jordan pointed the shotgun in the air and fired, then pointed the gun at one of the victims. Prosecutors said he threatened to blow the victim's head off. Documents obtained indicate that Jordan discharged multiple rounds at or in the vicinity of the victims. Then the victim, who was threatened with the gun, pulled out his own gun. Okay, period. Which prosecutors said he owned legally, and shot Jordan 3 times. I know that's right. Court records show that the victim who shot Jordan, this is what I'm sorry. I love a good story like this. Obviously, we'll talk about it. Hold on. Okay, so prosecutors said that the two white males, let me see, were accused of escalating the situation, and according to one of them, I'm not saying their names, encouraged the other to bring the shotgun closer to the victims. Both men were denied pretrial. Great. So, is this Paris? Why they won't say the city of the state? I don't know where Paris is. Is this Texas? What is it? There's so many Parises. Anyway, so basically what happened is it seems like a white mob popped up on these black young men trying to fish, and they were going to probably escalate it to hanging, and this is the issue that I have. We've on the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast, we've talked about victims who were hung, who we believe were lynched, but the articles read like, oh, it might be suicide again. I don't know how you do that, but whatever, because it's really hard. I don't, know if the average person knows the ins and outs of like a hanging, but it's not easy for you to do yourself. Okay. So let's just throw that out there. 10 times out of 10. Yeah, that is a murder. That is the situation when someone is hung. Anyway, so outside. So, but it seems like these people had their own gun and they shot back. They defended themselves, and it sounds good to me. I just hate that, again, and what I was trying to say is that people try to assume that these things are old and antiquated ways in which hate mobs, operate, because clearly it's 2026. Okay, it's 2026, and still you could be outside hanging out with your people and a white mob could come and, kill you essentially. This time they couldn't, because again, it's 2026, so it's different rules and regulations. But had this been 20 years ago, it might not have ended up like this. And I'm just glad, at the end of the day, I'm glad that the young man was shot, because that's what happens when you play all day. But it's like, Lord, the peace of mind of it all. And I don't understand why the article was written like that. Another thing I don't like is, like, when I looked up this article, I didn't see the face of these white males at all. And I don't know what they look like, to be honest. And so I'm thinking about the time I was looking up an article too about, it was a white male. I think it was a white male. They weren't black, just know that. And it was an article about some kind of disturbance the person made on a plane, I believe. And all the pictures that showed up for this person were not him, but they were black. And it was just like, wow. And so I can't even get the picture of these people. But yeah, that's something that just happened. And it's so crazy, because it's like, people always try to make it seem like things are happening that have never happened before, or things that have happened in the past don't happen now. And it's like, all of that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, clearly we're living in the same times we've always lived in. Anyway, on a lighter note, I do want to talk about the Artemis trip. Remember last time, I didn't know that Artemis was happening. Apparently this was something that was signed off in 2023, that it was going to be happening. I didn't even know. And I tell you what, the coverage around Artemis 2 has really been like, now in the midst of everything, it's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? But for that moment that Artemis was out there taking those pictures, they got to take some wonderful pictures of Earth and the moon. It was giving hope core. And we all could use some of that. And I'm just grateful that, I saw a lot of posts where, like, it seemed like children were being inspired, and the stories of all the astronauts were inspiring, and seeing a black man, be the space captain of the ship, and just, get everybody's home safely. It was beautiful. It was very nice. So I encourage y'all to look and find those. There's so many articles and different things all over. And maybe you can change your timelines too, so it can be again just a hope core situation. But I'm so glad that I found out, because I was reading an article about the pink moon, and then that's where I saw it. And so that from there I went, because it wasn't like it was, not that I knew of, blasted everywhere. It kind of became a thing the day of that it happened, or the day, excuse me, after it happened. So the last time we spoke to with each other was the day that it shot up. They took off, the wording of it all. And then I think the next day is when it seemed like it blew up, like, okay, y'all, we there. And I guess they wanted to keep it like that, because also you want to make sure that people get there. It's been a lot of different things. I think this was the first time that humans were going up there just to travel. So because they've gone to the space station, but have they traveled and actually they have not. So I figured out, we were trying to figure it out on the pod, like, what are they doing? Are they going to the moon? No, they weren't going to the moon. They were taking trips around the earth, I'm saying it wrong, but they were going around the earth. Then as the earth rotated past the moon, that's when they were able to take a trip around the moon, and they went around the entire moon. So they were able to get all those pictures. Some beautiful pictures, spooky looking pictures. The moon is something else now. So basically they got to see the dark side of the moon, take pictures of the dark side of the moon. It was very fascinating, very beautiful things, hope core for sure. And I just, I really hope that, well, I'm not going to say, because it'll reveal too much about how I feel about the trips to the moon. Okay, so, but I'm going to get out your hair, I promise. All right, crystal of the month. Again, this is the metaphysical portion of the podcast. All right, crystal of the month is Kyanite, the communication stone. It helps unburden energy blockages and negative self-talk. It rehabilitates self-expression and intuitive knowledge. All right, I don't know why I said intuitive like that. Incense of the season is spring, and it is jasmine. Okay, jasmine enhances mood. It is known to reduce stress and improve emotional balance and promote positivity. There's always something to celebrate. Please, let's celebrate spring. Let's celebrate a poetry. Let's celebrate your birthday. Let's just celebrate stuff. Let's welcome hope core into our lives, because it's getting weird, as it's always been. And it's just now that we get to see it all, and we now all have access to some of the most horrifying, insane, weird, odd, wacky stuff. And so stay grounded, stay hopeful. This has been a pleasure. Okay. When your head is in the clouds, there's always something sweet to think about. Talk to you later.